Have you ever noticed how, right before something important, your mind turns on you? A big exam is coming up. And the first thought you get is, there's no way I can do this. Or you're standing in front of a new opportunity. And all you can think is, what if I'm not good enough? What if I told you that thought alone can change your performance in a huge way? Today, I want to talk about one of the most powerful psychological engines behind success and growth. It's called self-efficacy. The person who first developed this idea was psychologist Albert Bandura. And to him, self-efficacy was never just confidence. It was something much more specific, and much more powerful. Self-efficacy is your belief that you can successfully do what a situation demands. Not a vague feeling like, I'm amazing. But a targeted belief like, I can handle this task. I can learn this. I can get through this. Bandura officially introduced this idea in a 1977 paper. At the time, psychology was heavily shaped by behaviorism. The idea that human behavior is mostly driven by rewards and punishments from the outside world. But Bandura argued something different. He believed that what people think about their own ability can shape behavior even more powerfully than external rewards. And over time, thousands of studies supported that idea. So why does self-efficacy matter so much? Because it changes the way you face difficulty. People with high self-efficacy are more likely to see hard tasks as challenges, not threats. They commit more strongly to their goals. They keep going longer. And when they fail, they recover faster. But people with low self-efficacy often do the opposite. They avoid difficult tasks. They give up more quickly. And they stay discouraged longer after setbacks. In other words, self-efficacy doesn't just affect how you feel. It affects what you try, how long you keep trying, and what kind of life you end up building. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Bandura found that self-efficacy develops through four main sources. And once you understand them, you start seeing them everywhere. The first is mastery experience. This is the most powerful one. When you personally succeed at something, even something small, your brain starts collecting evidence. It begins to believe, maybe I really can do this. That's why small wins matter so much. A little success is never just a little success. It becomes proof that you are capable. Studies have shown that when students experience even partial success on a difficult math task, they're more likely to stick with harder problems later. Think about that. One success changes the next attempt. And then the next one after that. The second source is vicarious experience. That's a fancy way of saying this: watching someone like you succeed. When you see a person with a similar background, similar struggles, or similar fears make it through, something shifts inside you. You think, if they can do it, maybe I can too. That kind of example can be incredibly powerful. Maybe it's someone your age who got through med school. Maybe it's a friend who started from scratch and built a career. Maybe it's a creator online, talking openly about anxiety and still doing brave things. The point is, role models don't just inspire us. They expand what feels possible. The third source is social persuasion. This is when someone you trust tells you, you can do this. And no, it's not just empty encouragement. The right words from the right person can genuinely strengthen your belief in yourself. A teacher's feedback, a mentor's support, a friend who sees something in you before you see it in yourself. Research has found that positive feedback from teachers can raise students' self-efficacy and improve academic performance. That makes sense, right? Sometimes we borrow belief before we fully build our own. The fourth source is your physiological and emotional state. In simple terms, how your body feels affects what your mind believes. If you're stressed, exhausted, anxious, or overwhelmed, it's easy to interpret those sensations as signs that you're not capable. Your heart starts racing before a presentation. Your hands shake, your chest tightens, and your brain says, see? I'm not good at this. But here's the thing. Those physical signals don't always mean you're unprepared. Sometimes they mean you care. Sometimes they mean you're alert. Sometimes they mean your body is getting ready to perform. And when people learn to reinterpret stress that way, their self-efficacy can actually go up. Same heartbeat, different meaning, very different outcome. There's another important detail a lot of people miss. Self-efficacy is not one single trait. It's not like you either have it or you don't. It's domain-specific. That means you can feel highly capable in one area of life and deeply uncertain in another. Someone might have strong self-efficacy in sports, but low self-efficacy in social situations. They'll sign up for a marathon without hesitation, but avoid a party full of strangers. Someone else might feel confident at work but completely lost in relationships. So when we talk about self-efficacy, we're not talking about general confidence floating around in the air. We're talking about a specific belief in a specific situation. And that matters, because change gets easier when you get specific. Not, I need more confidence. But, I want to feel more capable speaking up in meetings. Not, I need to become fearless. But, I want to believe I can handle this conversation. Now you might be wondering, can self-efficacy ever be too high? Actually, yes. And this is where it gets tricky. If your belief in yourself rises far above your actual preparation or ability, it can backfire. You underestimate the challenge, you skip the work, you ignore the risks, and when reality finally hits, the crash feels even worse. So healthy self-efficacy isn't blind optimism. It's not pretending you're great at something you haven't practiced. It's a grounded belief, a realistic confidence built on effort, learning, and experience. Bandura also made another important point. Self-efficacy is not fixed. It's not something you're born with once and for all. It can change, it can grow, and that is very good news. Because it means the voice in your head is not your destiny. With the right experiences and the right training, people can build stronger self-efficacy over time. For example, studies on people struggling with intense fear have found that when they're gradually exposed to difficult situations and allowed to succeed, step by step, their self-efficacy increases in meaningful ways. That makes sense. Courage usually doesn't appear all at once. It grows through evidence. One small success, then another, then another. Even from a brain perspective, self-efficacy matters. When self-efficacy is high, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain involved in planning, decision-making, and self-control, tends to stay more engaged. At the same time, the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, is less likely to take over. In other words, when you believe you can handle something, your brain is more able to stay calm, think clearly, and respond intentionally. But when self-efficacy is low, fear can take the wheel. Your alarm system gets louder, your thinking gets narrower, and everything feels more threatening than it really is. So how do you actually build self-efficacy in everyday life? Let's make this practical. First, set small goals and finish them. Not giant life-changing goals. Small ones, manageable ones, ones you can realistically complete. Because every time you follow through, you send yourself a message. I said I would do this, and I did. That message matters more than you think. Second, find role models who feel relatable. Not people who seem superhuman. People who feel close enough that their success expands your sense of possibility. Study how they thought, how they practiced, how they kept going when things got hard. Their story can become fuel for your own. Third, use support. Seriously, don't underestimate the power of people who believe in you. Friends, family, teachers, coaches, mentors. Let their words land, especially when you're in a season where your own belief feels shaky. And fourth, practice reframing your stress response. If your heart is pounding before something important, don't automatically label it as failure. Try telling yourself, my body is getting ready. I'm focused. I care about this. That small shift in interpretation can change the entire experience. Self-efficacy is also deeply connected to something called learned helplessness. That's the state people can fall into after repeated failures. When they start believing that nothing they do will make a difference. They stop trying, not because they are weak, but because their belief system has been wounded. And the scary part is, once that happens, people can start living as if they are powerless even when they're not. But this is the part one really want you to remember. Learned helplessness can be unlearned. That belief can be rebuilt. And it usually starts the same way self-efficacy starts. With one small success, then one more. Self-efficacy is not something a lucky few are born with. It's something built, something practiced, something earned through experience. So if you've been telling yourself, I'm just not the kind of person who can do that, maybe pause for a second. Maybe that isn't the truth. Maybe that's just a story your past has been telling you. And stories can change. Because in the end, growth doesn't begin when you become fearless. It begins the moment you start believing that maybe, just maybe, you can do the next small thing. And sometimes, that tiny belief changes everything.